Now remember, kids, no guns, no cell phones, internet safety, kids. This is a strange device, but no strange devices.
So today we're talking about school.
We're gonna make fun of it.
And all the dumb things that happen in the school.
Okay, let's get this straight right now. We do not mean to offend students or teachers of any kind across the country.
Any kind? What are the different kinds of teachers and students?
All we say right now, because that's not actually the problem. I will say that there are some teachers out there in the world that maybe shouldn't be teaching.
Clearly.
Right? But this is not directed towards anyone in particular. And nor students, because there are problems with some students too. But mostly, yeah, okay, you get the point. Okay, no, school these days, the education system that like America and states have put on these days, it's getting so bad. It's like the state is beginning to value like trying to make themselves look good and like, oh, look, we're getting a great education program and all this stuff, rather than actually educating these kids, because there's all these steps that we could be taking to educate kids better. And also it's like, I mean, what is it, the like no child left behind policy or whatever?
Oh, I hate that so much. I mean, I can understand where they're coming from with that. Like, we want everybody to have a bright future.
Right.
But the problem with that is that 99.9999998% of the time, the reason the kid is having problems...
That is 12% of a plan!
But the problem generally is that the kid's being lazy...
Yeah,
or
you can't
just.
I mean, I hate
force
to
a kid. You cannot force a kid to do what they don't want. And another problem with it is I saw this thing the other day, and it was kind of more a joke intended, but it was true. And it's like, so there's like an elephant and a bird and a monkey and like a goldfish or something, and there's this tree, and so the guy says on this test, he's like, so the test is fair for everybody. So the test is the same for everyone. First person to climb that tree wins. It's like, everybody has to do the same test. Everybody climb that tree. To be honest,
and it's like, there's a monkey and an elephant.
No. And it's a little bit more joking. It's a little bit hyperbole. Okay,
right.
But there's clearly people with different kinds of brain function. Like, there's people that are really good at math, and there's people that are really good at art. Like, just totally different across the board.
Yeah.
And I can understand how they need to know math, and they need to know this. Right. But it's become so strict that it's ridiculous. Okay, I have a class right now, and I know everything in that class already just because I've taught myself that stuff, and I just know it throughout the family and just whatever, right?
Yeah.
And yet I'm forced to sit in this dumb thing, even though I know everything. It's a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
It should be lenient enough to the point where it's like, I think I know this stuff.
Right.
I'm going to go do it, and if I'm lying, then I just screw myself over. But if I'm not, because I'm not, and 99% of the time, I mean, I can see that becoming a problem with everybody just like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Right. It's like, okay, well, you just dropping out of high school is essentially what
right. But here's the thing, the problem with this, is that the schools focus so much time on the people that don't know, get bad grades or not doing well. That's great and all, because I'm glad that we're focusing on people who don't have problems and stuff, but we focus so much on that we can't let kids who have the right to get a good education. Okay? We've decided as a country that's a right. That's a human right. You're born with the right to have an education.
Well, I mean, we do get the education, but it's just so slow.
But you aren't getting. No, that's the thing. Is you're not getting education in that class. You should have the right to say, look, I want to take a harder class, or I want to drop this and take something else that I'm going to actually learn. And the school won't let you. The schools, if you did that, the school would be like, no, this is a required class. To graduate, you're going to
I tried to.
Blah, 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 blah.
And they said, like, there's a performance test or something. We don't have that for this class, so it just kind of sucks for you. It's like, so I'm just going to waste hours and hours and hours.
Right.
Like, legitimately, though, it's like an hour every day. Let's say, like, a month. That's like 20 hours wasted
in just a
sitting in
month
a
of
dumb
that class.
And
Like in math class this year, I have learned almost nothing. Like,
oh yeah.
I know all the stuff. I learn it in like 2 minutes.
And here's an example though. Here's an example. Ben is really good at math. I'm fairly decent at math, but I'm not that amazing at math. Same thing goes for like technology,
like science,
whatever else.
You're better at science than I am.
Yeah, I think I can agree on that. And that's how it is for a lot of people.
Right.
And the fact that it's so strict, and this is where I'm looking into going to different schools because they allow you to just like a bullet.
Right.
You can
and
leave everybody else
that's
behind.
why I've cut 3 classes at school right now.
Just because there's
Just
not
because they literally, it's like, I'm just wasting my time and I'm not going to go to school every day for, 2.5 hours or whatever just to sit there and do nothing and learn nothing. So
yeah, I mean, I've looked into doing like online classes just so I can
think. And these SAGE tests in the state of Utah that are coming up.
Okay, I can understand why they're doing that, but I mean, what I don't understand is why they went from the CRT, the
CRTs?
Yeah, the CRTs, is that what that's what it was?
Yeah.
And, like, legitimately, every question on that, I don't know what the exact amount is, but it's, like, a ridiculous amount of money.
Right.
Just
and
to
here's
develop
the
that
problem.
one question.
Okay, you're right.
And
here's
it's like,
okay,
okay, it's great, test and all, but is it really necessary to spend that much money making a new test that's not even that necessary? It's like, well, what is it?
It's just a test. I mean, here's the problem with
here's another thing that I have with tests and teachers is that sometimes, you'll make a minor mistake on the test, or this will happen, or, try to use arrows or something, and the teacher is just so picky about it, right? It's like, the purpose of a test, and the purpose of quizzes and things, is just for the teacher to know whether or not you've learned the stuff. And if it's clear and completely obvious that you know this stuff, you just made a few minor mistakes, maybe you'll get a complete 100, maybe you legitimately did something dumb or something.
Right.
You should still be considered an A or better, a B or better at least in that class, because it's clearly you understand this stuff, and that's the whole purpose of the school, not to just be snooty and picky and like, well, you messed up here. Well, I understand this stuff, and that's the only thing that should matter.
Right. And the thing here's the problem I have with like things like the SAGE test. They are literally, what other reason is there for the SAGE test other than, we want to test students and figure out what might our students know? You know what I mean? We want to pre-test them, figure out what we need to teach them, and then test them and figure out if they've taught. Well, here's the problem with that. You're spending millions of dollars to figure out what they know, rather than
teaching them more.
It's like, we want to know what you know.
I mean, maybe a
more than
test,
we want to just teach you more.
Yeah.
Right? Because all that money, here's what you could do with that money.
You could put it into the schools.
You could put it into the schools, or you could just raise the salary of teachers. Now, the demand of teachers goes up because their salary is better. And then, because of more demand of teachers, that means more people coming in, and you can be more picky with what teachers you get. And then you get better education. It's just... And I don't see how people can't see that.
A minor test, I can completely understand. It makes sense to teach the kids. But the thing is that the SAGE test, or even the CRTs, for like math, you legitimately spend like a whole week to 2 weeks doing that. I mean, that's the total amount of time you spend on the SAGE is probably literally at least 24-hour period of just sitting staring at a computer testing.
Last year, I spent 8 hours on the English SAGE alone. 8 hours.
It's just, and I mean, it makes sense to have a test, but that's a little bit over.
We already take several tests over the year in just a class.
Oh yeah.
Why can't the state admit? I can understand how the state doesn't want to take a personal school test for every single test, because they don't get accurate results for the entire state, right? Like every single test is different at the schools, and they can't trust teachers and stuff. Okay, so great, make one test and be done with it. Like, you don't have to do all this crazy new. I mean, this is millions of dollars.
Exaggerated.
And 8 hours on a one test is outrageous.
I agree.
School is not about testing.
Now, if we're talking about the ACT or something, that's more reasonable.
Okay, that's a little bit different.
It's a complete overall, all of your high school testing.
Right, like everybody, all colleges look at ACTs, and that's a big universal thing that people will look at.
Oh yeah.
This is...
right? But if it's just minor tests, every single grade, you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours
BYU is not going to look at this person got a low SAGE score.
Well,
Nobody
it might,
cares.
but it's not like
No,
that
ACT.
should be that exact.
ACT is what they
ACT
look
is
at.
the most major. And just kind of some of the things around the school are just kind of crazy, too. It's like
Yeah.
lockers. I mean, you can understand why
Oh.
they need the room, but you can't even, like, fit your backpack in your locker.
I know. But I feel strongly about it. I mean, if you have a problem with it, sucks for you because
I mean,
our education system is messed up.
and I can understand how there's kids that are probably at the level to the point where school is legitimate thing for them, and that's fine. That's
Right,
completely.
like, a lot of kids have
100%
struggle in school
fine.
and they struggle to get that A. It's challenging.
Mhm.
But if a lot of kids don't have challenges, and a lot of kids they get so depressed because they can't get A's, and so then they get. I mean, there's a lot of psychological problems, and I'm not saying my arguments or Taylor's arguments in this video are perfect because
No,
there are so
they're
many
far
things that
from
we're not
perfect.
pointing out that you could easily point out, and we're obviously not going to point out because it goes
Well, I
against
mean,
our views.
it's just that
But-
like there's no child left behind policy is good. In fact, I'd say it's really good. But the
It's
thing
decent.
is
It's decent.
that there's a few kids in there that don't need to be involved in that one child left behind policy because they're a million miles away from that one child.
And if
that
if
is
you get
getting
too
left
involved, okay, great, make programs and stuff, but you get too involved in it, and literally like everything you do at school is based on this like, oh, make sure kids aren't falling behind, oh, make sure people are getting good grades, oh, test high, you know.
And
All
in
this stuff,
reality,
it's
the whole
all-
purpose is just so the kid knows what's going on. They learn
Just
this
let
stuff.
them learn,
And
you know what I
that
mean?
should be their responsibility. Okay, you can't
right. If they don't
force
want, if they can't
learning
learn,
stuff
if
on
they
the
won't
kids.
learn, I mean, I hate to say it, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but the kid's not going to learn if he doesn't want to learn. You know, you have to change his desire at that point. You can't like,
And that's
oh, we're gonna make
near impossible.
intervention. We're gonna have after school classes. You know, that we're gonna force him to go to.
intervention
That's
makes
gonna-
sense.
anyway.
So for
Okay,
our school,
well-
for our school, there's like a little plus period, right? They give you your ticket, and if you get like a D or something, D or lower, some certain like category. Thankfully, I don't know what it is.
for a
Tells you
grade.
something.
for a grade,
um,
you have to go to
you
that
have
class.
to go to that class, which makes sense.
For,
I mean,
like,
that's a
25
great idea.
minutes.
In fact, the year that they introduced that concept to the school, that was the best group of ninth graders they had ever sent to the high school because of the thing. And so
Right. So it obviously shows
it
improvement.
obviously helps. And I feel
But-
like lots of schools
Yeah.
are just too uptight and strict, and it just should be a million
Yeah.
times more.
And I have to
lenient.
admit, our schools are a lot better than obviously like we have a great education system in America in general. So I can't complain too much, but I definitely think that there are ways we can improve. Anyway, let's learn our ABCs
Why
today.
are we
A,
talking?
B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I,
About
J, K, L, M,
school?
N, O, P, Q, R,
We
S,
hate it.
T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Won't you see my crap? I need to go back to kindergarten. I need to learn that last line of that song.